Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee and Football presented by BKCW. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from, what you're drinking. Get those questions in. We are a little over 24 hours away from kickoff. By the way, we'll have Aaron McMann of M Live today. He's beat writer for the Wolverines. He knows a thing or two about Michigan, so he'll be joining us to talk all about that here around 8:30ish. But let's just jump right into it, guys, because Bobby, I know you're especially excited here. You got here a little early this morning, so I know you're excited. We're going to start with the weather as we have all week. They've upped the rain chances for games around the games. So, of course, the jacket may come in handy for the football game. It has said that all week, but high of 60, low of 38, and moderate winds there.
I got to tell you, I'm up in northern Ohio right now. I'm about 2.5 hours away from Ann Arbor. I'm about 30 minutes away from Lake Erie here, right? It feels chilly this morning compared to Austin last week. And I wrote this morning. I'm not concerned about cramps tomorrow, Jerry and Blake. I'm concerned about pulled hamstrings and tight hamstrings because it is decidedly different weather than what the guys have been practicing in and playing in Austin all summer long. That being said, it is also fall football weather. I mean, I got up and my son goes to school up here in northern Ohio at a small school called Oberlin. And I got up and walked around town this morning. It is a small town. And literally it was just like perfect weather, nice breeze, etc. It's supposed to be even cooler up in Ann Arbor tomorrow. So bring your long sleeves if you're coming to Ann Arbor tomorrow. But it is definitely football weather right now, fall football weather as well.
Well, I'm not there. I'm in Savannah, Georgia, and I watched some beasts last night. We'll get to that in a little while. I'm not. I'm in the opposite of that. Although, like 77, 78 in Savannah this morning, I mean, that's it's Chamber of Commerce weather in Georgia in September.
Oh, good stuff. Well, hey, one thing that we've also done all week long, guys, is kind of look at the line, and we've talked about this, numerous times this week. But it's a little bit of movement in the last 24 hours back down. It was 7.5 yesterday in favor of the Longhorns. It's now back down to 7, and then of course, matchup predictor has stayed the same, 73.8%. From ESPN Analytics, which I think we all agree is a little high, but Longhorn fans will probably take it.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's high. I mean, Michigan's won 23 straight home games, 16 games in a row. They're defending national champs. I know it's not the same team, but I mean, sitting there saying, "Oh, Texas got 74% chance to go in and win in Ann Arbor." I mean, that's high. But I think Texas is the better football team if they both play well. And that's really what it's going to come down to is, who executes in a game. These games come down to execution. Go back and look at Michigan, Alabama in overtime. Low snap, Jalen Milroe doesn't get into the end zone. They lose it. And these games come down to execution. So many times we talk about everything that can happen, will potentially happen, schemes versus schemes. But all of this, so much of the time, comes down to execution. And look, I think Texas is the better football team. I think if this game was in Austin, I think it's a double-digit win for Texas this year, or especially early in the season while Michigan's finding their identity and finding their way a little bit. And I say identity because they just lost too many pieces. And we talk about McCarthy, but look, Blake Corum, he was a tremendously consistent running back in a great scheme fit. That offensive line, their guards have to play better at Michigan this week. Some would say Texas guards have to play better. Cole Hudson, I thought, was really good last week, by the way. I think Cole Hudson is Texas' best guard right now in terms of playing, in terms of executing on the field. But both guards, this game, we talk about the tackles, and Michigan's edge rush, I think, is what Cam Williams and Kelvin Banks and Sark has to handle. But both sets of guards in this game, who takes the step up? Who takes the step up this week? That's going to be big in this game. First down run defense for Texas. All of these things haven't changed, but it comes down to execution. You can't turn it over on your half of the field in a condensed game against a team that's going to try to squeeze the clock, right, and cut your possessions. You can't. Texas needs to be +1 in the turnover battle in this game, guys, even or +1. If they're sitting at a -2, it's going to be tough. So these games always come down to execution when talent's neutralized, unless somebody has a very special performance.
I wrote down, before you even mentioned turnovers, I was writing down turnovers. Think about the 2 losses last year Texas had. What were the keys to those?
Yeah.
Not playing great on defense and offensive turnovers, right? Turn over the ball multiple times against OU, turn over the ball multiple times against Washington. Those are your 2 losses a year ago. Texas goes up to Ann Arbor. You want a recipe for failure? Turn the ball over early against Michigan. What did they not do when they went to Alabama a year ago? They didn't turn the ball over. I want to speak to this also as we talk about keys to winning and et cetera, Jerry and Blake. I wrote something this morning on the heels of Xavier Worthy scoring 2 touchdowns last night, right? If you missed it, Worthy had a scintillating reverse for a touchdown. I mean, literally looked like he was returning a punt and weaving through NFL players. Just tremendous. And then he was late in the fourth quarter or midway through the fourth quarter, he caught a long touchdown where he was wide open for Patrick McCombs, just kind of walked into the end zone. Here's my point on that. And I wrote this morning on Texas Football. Xavier Worthy, Texas has to replace Worthy, Mitchell, and Whittington, okay? Last week, it looked like they could. I think everybody was excited, and we loved what we saw there, okay? The next thing to mention about this is now Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell, they did it against Alabama. Not Colorado State, Alabama. So can Texas wide receivers now take that next step up and do the same thing against better opponents? We talked all week. Offensive line, defensive line for Texas being one of the keys to the game. Can they handle Michigan's downhill running attack, and can they keep Michigan's defensive line at bay at least? Right? We said those were 2 of the. Here's another one. Playmakers got to make plays for Texas, like they did in Tuscaloosa last year. Xavier Worthy got Texas going with that deep ball from Quinn. Adonai Mitchell was a dagger against Alabama. Does Texas have those sorts of playmakers? Because we just saw that Xavier Worthy's playmaking ability translates to that next level.
And I would say this, flip side, Michigan lost theirs too.
Yeah.
Sanistril in the secondary led them with 6 interceptions last year, was their best playmaker. Will Johnson's the best pro prospect. Sanistril's their best playmaker. Blake Corum, Michigan, JJ McCarthy. Both of these teams lost a lot of key playmakers off their teams last year. And so that's why I think, one of the things I mentioned, who's going to come up with the big performance in this game? These games, somebody normally comes up really big. Sometimes it's somebody you're not expecting to. Sometimes it's somebody you are expecting to, but they go even above and beyond. This is a game where you can go from a guy on the NFL's radar as a mid-round pick and become a guy being talked about as a first-round pick. That's the type of game this is. Or a young kid that pops on to the radar and people start talking about him as a future first-round pick level player. That's what these games do. They provide opportunity. So I'm with you, Bobby. Texas lost a lot of their playmakers. Michigan lost a lot of their playmakers as well. That's why I've continued to say, I know Kenneth Grant and Mason Graham are really good players, both potential first-round picks on the interior D-line. But Michigan's playmaker is Josiah Stewart on the edge. Texas has to slow down Josiah Stewart in this game. If he starts to affect passing game timing and gets a lot of hits on the quarterback, that's going to change things for the Texas offense. He's their best. He's their best playmaker before the ball is in the air for Michigan.
All right, guys, plenty to talk about this morning. Lots of excitement in the air. But before we move on, Bobby, I need you to tell everybody about BKCW.
Yeah, absolutely. Today's show being brought to you by our friends over at BKCW Business Insurance. They talk about getting you out of the insurance trap. BKCW takes your business out of that trap by providing you with actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting. Operating out of its headquarters in Austin and owned by a UT grad, BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's weak spots, design a plan, execute it, and monitor your situation throughout the year so that you can lower your insurance costs and effectively manage your company's risks and employee benefits. BKCW has risk consultants that specialize in many different industries, from construction, transportation companies, nonprofits, even to school districts. So you'll get matched up with someone who knows your business's risks and can help you escape the insurance trap. Get started with a free risk assessment at bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw.com. Phone number 512-250-5055. Thanks for the guys at BKCW. We really appreciate your sponsorship.
Thank you, Bobby. And we'll come back to Michigan here shortly, especially when our special guest joins us. But Jerry, as you said a little bit ago, you have been on the road. You've been seeing some elite talent out there, to say the least. What's the latest?
Yeah, well, I think we just went over 1,000 miles on the trip. We're going to today from Savannah to Florida. So we're right there. We're right there in the wheelhouse for a good trip on the road for a week. But yeah, yesterday was interesting. As after coffee and football, I made the short trip from Athens, about 45 minutes, down to Greensboro, Georgia, to see Kevin Wynn, the FSU commitment who officially visited Texas, who Texas remains in the hunt on. By the way, one thing I did not know, here's some Kevin Wynn. This is junior season. He has a couple of games on his senior clips, but we wanted to play this more instead of having to do 40 seconds. By the way, Kevin Wynn is 6'2", 324. Looks really good. And look, he doesn't even really maximize his stance yet, but he is a strong kid, man.
Jerry, I was just watching these first two clips. He has a future in the WWE if he can't get it going on a football field.
Yeah. And he plays against a little lower level competition, but I'm just here to tell you, Georgia, FSU, and Texas aren't fighting for a kid that's not tremendous and has really good strength and leverage and quickness. But the interesting thing with him, well, two interesting things. I walked in Greene County, which I've been a lot of places over my years in the business when I was doing this nationally. This was my first stop at Greene County. So I walk into school, and there's like a Hall of Honor thing. And one of the first names I saw was Tony Barnhart. I had no idea he went to Greene County High School, by the way. That's the fun stuff about my job. When you go on the road, like Tony Barnhart went to Greene County. Greensboro is dang near in the middle of nowhere in Georgia. It's about 45 minutes south of Athens. But look, Kevin Wynn, he's in contact with Kenny Baker. I think he'll take a visit during the season. They have a couple of off-week opportunities coming up late September and October. He was at the FSU game on Monday. Obviously, he has some concerns there. Georgia is not let off either in this one. So it's going to come down to whether Texas or Georgia can flip him from FSU. And I do think that's in play right now. And I'm not saying he's for sure going to flip or anything. I'm just saying it's definitely not a lock that Kevin Wynn ends up at FSU right now. And things can change. He can stay at FSU, but there's definitely concerns there on that front. Kevin Wynn, again, look, there's so many good defensive linemen in Georgia. Some of these kids are underranked because there's so many tremendous defensive linemen in Georgia. But again, Kevin Wynn talking multiple times every week with Kenny Baker. I think he'll visit during the season. The question is that Texas has two things they have to overcome in this. One, it is tougher to get to Austin from Greensboro County, from Greensboro, Georgia, than it is Tallahassee, a 4-hour drive, or Athens, a 45-minute drive. And then two, this kid is, look, culinary is his thing. And that's not a major for Texas. Now, when he visited Texas, they did a great job showing him the opportunities in the field in Austin, but they don't have his specific major. And that's something that Texas will have to overcome if they're going to flip him.
I just got to tell you this, Jerry. There are people on our live stream and chat that played guard, center, or guard in high school. I know they're out there.
Yeah.
They would not want to play against this dude because he's fast and strong and quick. And he uses his hands well. I mean, he does it all as an interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, no doubt. And look, he looked really good physically yesterday. 6'2", is 6'2" and change, 324, and looks really good. So he's one of the best D-line prospects in the country, and there's no doubt about it. And Georgia's knocking down that door as well. So we'll see what happens. The key, I'm telling you, my key with all this stuff, with these kids who are committed elsewhere, who are still talking to Texas, that visited in June, they need to get them back on campus. Myron Charles, Kevin Wynn, they got to get these kids back on campus. That's the key to me. Now the next guy.
Wait, we got a comment from Mama Vogel. Okay. Our CJ Vogel, has landed in Michigan, according to Mama Vogel. So this is we're excited about that one. I'll see CJ later today up in Ann Arbor. Can't wait. Thanks, Lisa, for letting us know.
See. Okay, so I guess we can let CJ post it on his Instagram, so people are talking about it. CJ, I guess, said he went to the wrong airport.
The wrong airport in Houston, which is a 1 hour mistake. Easily.
That's 2 counties away.
Yeah. But he got it right. He's up there. He made it. Yeah. We're excited. We'll see him later today.
Yeah. All right. Now, this was my stop last night, guys, and I'm just here to tell you, this is a bad dude. Walter Mathis, and he's 6'1" and 5'8", 6'1" and 7/8 without shoes, which is plenty. Anybody dinging him for that needs a new career. So Walter Mathis goes by Buddy here. I watched. There's 2 guys who do a great job training kids in Savannah. So I went and met with those guys last night, and Buddy Walter Mathis was there. This kid, I'm just here to tell you, Bobby, they don't max out during the season. So the last time they lifted heavy right before the season, he did 415 pounds on the bench 5 times. That equates to 470 max bench. He squatted 515 5 times. That equates to a 640 max squat. And this dude is a bad dude. He weighs 288 pounds. He looks like he weighs 265. And he's well coached. He works with D'Angelo Brown as well. D'Angelo Brown was a defensive lineman out of Savannah that Charlie Strong signed, had a cup of coffee in the NFL. But this is why this kid understands stance leverage. Now, you can't coach the motor he has, and he's a smart kid, great parents. Miami's the favorite, LSU, number 2, Clemson and Auburn, who we also visited on the peripheral. He's talked with Kenny Baker multiple times. They're talking about getting him on campus for a visit. Now, this guy, Bobby, I can't believe people have this guy ranked a 3-star in our industry. I mean, they need to get out. This is a joke. This kid's really, really, really good. And I mean, just think about that. 415 pounds 5 times as a 17-year-old. And look, he understands a stance and leverage. I mean, this kid's a big time prospect. And I get that some of these kids in Georgia are undervalued or ranked because there's so many good defensive linemen in Georgia. But Bobby, we've been doing this a long time. On what level is this guy a 3-star prospect? His recruitment's not. His tape is not. If you've done any homework on him, he's not. It's criminal.
415 pounds 5 times. I don't know how many times I'd need to get, I would have to bench press 5 times to get up to 415, I think.
I mean, he's a stud. This kid's a stud. So we'll see. Texas is talking to him. And we'll see if they get him on campus. I think things are moving. I think he wants to visit Texas. One of the keys with his recruitment, I do believe, will be, Savannah, again, kind of like it's different. Obviously, there's a major airport, but it's easier to get to Miami from Savannah than it is Baton Rouge or Austin.
Of course.
Those are things that you have to navigate around in these recruitments on some of these kids. But Vivek B's after Walter Mathis is a senior. He's a 2025 class player.
Hey, Jerry, we need to get to our guest today. Aaron McMann of M Live. If you follow the Wolverines, you probably read Aaron quite often. We appreciate him coming on. Blake set this guest up for us. Aaron, I appreciate you joining, man.
Good morning, guys.
Morning. We were talking I'm up in northern Ohio right now, and the weather up here is drastically different than Austin, Texas. It's going to be in the 60s, we think, at around game time. It'll dip into the low 30s tonight. That's not September weather in Texas, just so you know.
It's not early September weather here in Michigan either. I mean, it's been in the 80s. I mean, it got up to 85 here yesterday. So it's going to be unseasonably cool Saturday. And in fact, I think if you look at the forecast for Monday, it gets back in the 80s. So we got an odd, cool spell here on Saturday. But I'm all for it. I love the fall weather here in Michigan.
Let me ask you this. We've been talking all week, Aaron, about this game. A lot of it's been centered around the offensive line and defensive line play of both teams because can Texas handle Michigan's downhill running attack, play action to Colston Loveland? Likewise, can Texas offensive line handle the onslaught that is the Wolverines pass rush and defensive front? What do you make of this game right now? You've been covering. Michigan has 23-game winning streak at home. We're all well aware they're the defending national champions, etc. What are your takes on this game?
Yeah, I will start with the offensive line. Michigan's bread and butter the last couple of years, I'm sure you guys know, has been the offensive line. That's why they've been so successful offensively. I mean, they love those long, time-consuming drives that keep the football away from opponents, and that's why that's been their X's and O's, or game plan the last couple of years. I think fortunately for Texas, they get Michigan here in week 2 and maybe not later in the year, because it almost seems like especially the last 3 years, Michigan's offensive line has gotten better as the season has gone on. They've gotten out of the gate slow the last couple of years, and I don't think they looked very good Saturday against Fresno State either. So they're still trying to figure things out there. I do think it's a pretty good line. I don't know if it's as good as Michigan's had the last couple of years, but they've got a collection of guys who have a lot of experience and starting experience. They're still trying to figure things out. And then you've got quarterback situation where Michigan kind of threw Davis Warren into the fire last week for his first start in the last 5 years, basically. So Michigan's still trying to figure things out offensively. If you're going to catch them now is the time to do it. And I think fortunately for Texas, I think they've got the skill on both sides of the ball to certainly make this a good game.
What about the Michigan defense? Jerry watched Fresno State the game against Fresno State, and I did too. I watched it on tape delay, but the question that Jerry's brought up that I think is pretty astute one is not necessarily Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant. Those guys are givens. I mean, they're both high-end dudes. It's Josiah Stewart in the pass rush from the outside. Is he an X factor for Michigan in this defense? What about the linebacker? I talked to Doug Karsh earlier this week. He's talking about Jawan Barham, the linebacker that has been so good. What are the things for Texas to watch for from the Michigan D?
Yeah, they got weapons at basically every level. You mentioned Graham and Grant. I mean, they're all American caliber tackles, very good. You mentioned the edge rusher. Josiah Stewart's an interesting cat because he came from Coastal Carolina a couple of years ago where he had big numbers, but we weren't sure how that was going to translate to the Big Ten play. He got off to a little bit of a slow start last year, but as things came on, as the season came on, I mean, he really blew up. He had a big game against Alabama in the Rose Bowl, played well, late in the year, and I think he showed that he could do it on this stage. He wasn't technically a starter last year. Michigan, they kind of had 4 edge rushers. They mixed in there. They gave him basically equal snaps, but we really saw Josiah Stewart, the gears kind of move toward the end of the year, and he had a really strong finish. He's a bull. He goes after the quarterback. That is his job. He's a little bit undersized for maybe the Big Ten caliber edge rushers that Michigan's used to going up against. But no, they will send him after the quarterback and try and disrupt things as much as possible. Derek Moore's more of a bigger bodied edge. He can get after the quarterback, but he's more about blocking. And I think Michigan's kind of utilizing him a little bit more to try and open things up for the linebackers, as you mentioned. Jayshawn Barham's a guy they got from Maryland. We've heard a lot of great things about in the offseason. He hits hard. Some of the Michigan coaches have called him one of the better, maybe best inside linebackers they've seen in a long time. And that includes Devin Bush and some of the bigger names that have come out of Ann Arbor. So he's going to be a problem to deal with, I would think, for Texas. And then Ernest Hausman, another transfer Michigan got a couple of years ago from Nebraska. He's almost kind of like a leader of the group. They can do different things with him. He's a smart, high IQ guy. He can drop back in coverage, as can Barham, but they certainly, I think, prefer setting Barham after the quarterback.
Hey, Aaron, one of the questions I had with Michigan, I think questions that Michigan's going to have to answer as the season moves along is, obviously the offenses gets talked about a lot. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, the offensive line, all those guys. But, Mike Sanistril had 6 interceptions last year. Rod Moore was lost to ACL. I think they lost about 10 interceptions off that team last year. Who do you see as guys who could step up and be playmakers? Because playmakers have to – obviously Will Johnson about, but I'm talking about outside him. They had a lot of playmakers in the secondary, and Keon Sabb transferred.
Yep.
Who are those playmakers this year? Can they adequately replace them early in the season?
Yeah, it's a good question. I don't know that they can. And I think they tried to do it this offseason by bringing in a boatload of transfers. If you look at the depth chart right now in the secondary for Michigan, a lot of the starters are guys that came back or played last year. You mentioned Will Johnson at quarter. Makari Page came back for a senior year at safety. You've got a 5th-year guy at safety in Quentin Johnson, who was more of a rotational guy last year. Didn't see the field a ton, but he's been in the program a long time. And then they're starting opposite Will Johnson at corner, a guy by the name of Jair Hill. He's like a redshirt freshman, didn't play a ton last year, but they feel like they had enough. They saw enough from him that he earned starting reps. Meanwhile, they brought in 4 guys from the transfer portal, all with starting experience, guys you thought maybe would come in and try and push for starting jobs. And while they did, they feel like they didn't do enough to win the job. So when you go back and watch the film from last Saturday against Fresno, Michigan rotated a lot of those guys in and out throughout the game. I think Wink Martindale prefers, he's been talking a lot about this positionless defense he likes to play and I think deploy. He's using a lot of guys doing a lot of different things. And I think part of it last Saturday was putting just stuff on film for Texas to try and prepare for, to, maybe not sure of what's coming up. But they were using a lot of those guys, rotating him in and out in the secondary. Zeke Berry's the name that's come up quite a bit. He's playing that nickel spot, filling in for Mike Sanders still last year. I don't know if he's got the wherewithal or maybe the skill set that Sanders still had, because Sanders still was a unique guy. I mean, he was a 1 in a million. I mean, I don't think Michigan's going to see a guy like him for a long time. But I mean, right now the secondary, they're really leaning on Will Johnson. I don't think he played particularly well last week. He got beat on several throws, and he should have given up a touchdown at the Fresno State receiver not falling down in the end zone. Now, he ended up with the pick 6 toward the end, but I know he was angry about it. And, I'm curious to see how he bounces back. I mean, everyone's talking about him being one of the best corners in the country, and rightfully so. But I don't think he looked very good last week. So I'm curious to see how he bounces back Saturday.
What's the pulse on this game? I mean, look, it's going to be is it going to be a record-setting crowd, or maybe they throw one more person in than last week to get the record-setting? I mean, you bringing up Derek Jeter from Tampa with the hand over the game ball, right? Matthew McConaughey's in town. Michael Phelps is going to be in town. I mean, what's the pulse? I mean, you've been to a lot of big games.
Mm-hmm.
You've covered a lot of big games. Where is this? I mean, obviously, Ohio State coming to town ranked number 1 or 2 is a big deal. Where does this Texas one going to stack up? Where do you kind of see the pulse on this game up there?
It's right up there. It's rare when Michigan gets a non-conference home game of this magnitude. I can't remember the last time. I mean, you go back even a decade, Michigan's had some top non-conference games, Alabama, Florida, but they're usually at neutral sites. So to get Texas to come up to Ann Arbor is a huge deal. It's very much like an Ohio State week. It's funny. I was talking to someone about that the other day. Like, there are big games. Michigan plays Michigan State every year. It's a big rivalry. They often have top 25 matchups against Wisconsin or whatever the case may be. But this is up there. It's got a big game feel to it. You mentioned all the celebrities coming. Game Day is going to be there. Fox is bringing their studio show. Everyone's going to be in Ann Arbor. It's going to be a big deal. The weather's, as you mentioned, is going to be a little cool, but still going to be very good and sunny. I'm looking forward to it. Big games like this make college football so much fun, and to get it week 2 as opposed to maybe week 8, week 9, or in the case of Ohio State every year, week 12. It's got a certainly big game, even playoff feel in my opinion.
Well, it could be a future playoff matchup. To be honest, that if both teams do what they think they can do this year, Texas, it's interesting to me because the Longhorns. Pretty even, and Steve Sarkisian likes to be balanced on offense, Aaron. Well, Michigan's defense only allowed 9 yards rushing last week. They're not balanced. They stop the run first and then dare you to beat them in the passing game and then try to unleash their guys. What are your predictions on this game? How do you see this going? Either way, I don't know if you've divulged your prediction yet or not, but how do you see this game going one way or the other?
I have Texas winning, I think, by 10 or 11 points. I think the spread's right about correct. I just think there's too much talent on this Texas team offensively. I think the one thing going for Michigan is that the Texas strength, their offense and their skill players kind of feed into the Michigan strength defensively. So I think Michigan can slow the Longhorns down, but I just don't know if Michigan has enough gas offensively to get this done based on what we saw last week. You saw too many drives end too quickly. You saw them leave points on the board. You saw them make mistakes. You got guys that are starting maybe for the first time in the case of Davis Warren in his career. So this is a big moment for Michigan offensively. I'm really curious to see what they look like. I just don't think they have enough to do it. So I'm taking Texas. I think I said 27-16, something to that like that. Michigan's field goal kicker is very good, so they're going to have to lean on him to get as many points as they can. But if they can't get in the end zone like they struggled Saturday against Fresno State, I think it's going to be a long day for Michigan. So I'm taking Texas.
Well, that's music to people's ears on this channel. I'll tell you that much. Hey, before we let you go, do us a favor, Aaron. I'm sure you live up in that neck of the woods. A lot of people traveling to Ann Arbor. Give us a couple of places that you like to go eat that would be good places for Texas fans who are in Ann Arbor. We've already got a number of them in this chat saying, "Hey, are there any meetup?" Give them a couple of places that aren't necessarily the chains to go eat or something like that if they want to go out and have a burger or what have you on a Friday.
Yeah, so there's two really areas of Ann Arbor to check out. There's South University, which is kind of the college area. A lot of the college bars, more laid back, maybe a little cheaper prices. Garage Bar, Pizza House are good spots for to hang out, drink, watch the games. Pizza's are really good there. And then there's Main Street. That's kind of the heart of downtown Ann Arbor, where some of the upper echelon, steakhouses are, nicer restaurants. Pretzel Bell is a nice spot there. There's some steakhouses there. Those are probably the main two areas to hit up. They will be busy, so plan accordingly. Try and get there earlier, but those are the two spots to check out.
Aaron, thank you so much for responding to our request, and Blake, thank you for setting this up. Good luck this week. We hope to see you there, Aaron.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
All right, have a good one.
There.
Yep.
Good stuff, Blake. Way to go, bud. That was a good guess to get, and I like his prediction.
Yeah, it cracked me up because the chat was like, "Oh, he's all about Michigan," blah. Then he flipped the script and he's like, "No, Texas is winning." And then everybody got real quiet.
One of the things that my takeaway from kind of studying Michigan, going back and watching a little bit of Fresno and listening to guys like Aaron is, and that's why I asked the question about the secondary. Because to me, first down run defense and pass pro for Texas, that's the whole enchilada. There's a lot of things around it, right? But those are your two keys in this game. And for Texas, if they handle the Michigan Wink Martindale, the blitz packages, to Josiah Stewart, an individual guy who can disrupt you, if Texas handles that, I think they're going to win against the Michigan secondary. Michigan just lost too many playmakers off that team, whether that was Sanistro, who's a tremendous guy, Rod Moore to ACL in the spring, Keon Sabb transfer in Alabama. You're not going to replace all those guys. If Texas passes the pass pro test, I think they're going to make plays in the passing game against this. And I'm not saying Michigan's not a good secondary. They were just elite last year.
I think it's turnovers as a result of that pass rush. To your point, Jerry, that's the piece for me. So if they can get past the pass rush and turnovers and what that may look like together, I agree with you. I agree with you very much. Hey guys, Blake, tell us a little bit about HelloFresh before we move on to our next topic.
Yes, I need to do just that, Bobby. Thank you for asking. And with HelloFresh, you get farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to your doorstep. You can skip trips to the grocery store and count on HelloFresh to make home cooking easy, fun, and affordable. That's why it's America's #1 meal kit. And with summer in the rearview mirror and football season ahead, now's the perfect time to save time and money when it comes to your dinner routine. You can skip the meal planning and grocery store lines with HelloFresh's convenient doorstep delivery and pre-measured ingredients. Guys, life is busy. Some of you may be on your way to Ann Arbor, might be packing. You got stuff going on each and every weekend, especially with football season here. That's what makes HelloFresh great. It's so fast. It's so simple. It works great for me. I promise it will work great for you too. And here is the best part. HelloFresh is hooking y'all up with free breakfast for life. All you have to do, just go to HelloFresh.com/free-on-Texas. You're going to receive 1 free breakfast item per box while your subscription is active. That's free breakfast for life just by going to HelloFresh.com/free-on-Texas. And that's HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. And then, Jerry, why don't you tell everybody out there about your #1 product, Manscaped?
Well, look, I'm on the road, so the handyman makes the trip because I do care, and I am not just a promoter; I'm a user. And let's hope that part of the Texas big 18-wheeler that pulled away going to Detroit, to Ann Arbor yesterday, had about 1,000 5.0s to deliver to the Wolverines Saturday. All right, it's the Beard and Balls bundle. Fellas, do you want your grooming routine to be a one-and-done deal? Well, the days of using the same trimmer for your face and your private parts are over thanks to our friends at Manscaped. Our good friends at Manscaped, by the way. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6, introducing the Beard and Balls bundle featuring the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger, a trimmer for the moneymaker and another for the boys downstairs. If they're both, that's another conversation. Get 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS, all caps, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with code ONTEXAS at manscaped.com for the premium grooming experience. You got to trust Manscaped. I do. I'm still here. I got my 5.0 on the road and my handyman on the road. Manscaped, all caps.
Thank you as always, Jerry. We appreciate
Hey, Jerry, I hate to segue this right away, but recruiting right now, you're headed out from Savannah. You're in Savannah after just seeing Buddy Mathis, the defensive lineman. You saw Kevin Wynn, Caleb Bell earlier this week, Nick Brooks and Joseph Mbaktu. That's 5 different, I think 4 or 5 different defensive linemen in the in Georgia alone that we know Texas is after. You're headed to Jacksonville today to check in on the latest Longhorn commitment, Jamie French.
Yeah, right after this, hitting the road, going down to Jacksonville. I don't know what the game's going to be tonight because I think it's going to be. I think I'm going to be 8 ankle deep in rainwater. But we're going to go down to Mandarin High after this and go see Jamie French, and hopefully the rain takes a little bit of a break and we can actually get some good game footage and game action for you guys. I'm not sure the weather's going to cooperate, but 2-hour drive from Savannah down to the Mandarin High School area. So we're going to go down there, see Jamie French, check in on him. Senior year, he's off to a really good start. His senior, I think he has 7 receptions for 206 yards and 2 or 3 touchdowns his first couple of games. But I'm always excited to see Jamie French because, look, doing this a long time like I have, his personality, that he's got an infectious personality. He's just fun. He's fun to be around. Those guys make this a lot of fun when you've been on the road all week and you put a lot of miles on the car. So, yeah, I can't wait to go see Jamie French. And look, that Mandarin team, by the way, the quarterback is committed to FSU. The safety, Hilton Stubbs, is committed to Miami. They have multiple Power 4 kids in the junior class on that team. They lost in the state title last year. So the great thing about a trip like this for me this week is I literally went to Saraland, who's one state 2 years ago with KJ Lacey and Ryan Williams. Obviously, Ryan Williams at Bama. They have Antonio Coleman, the defensive lineman, committed to Auburn. They lost in the state title game last year. Where do I go from there? I go up to see Grayson High, one of the true powers in the Atlanta area, 3 in the state of Georgia, 3 state championships, but multiple future NFL players on that team, on that practice field. I'm just telling you, they had 3-4 out of all that talent, 3-4 future NFL guys. Milton, the same way. North Gwinnett, very talented program. Then you go down to Greensboro. Like, those trips are so much fun in this business. I'd never been to Greene County, Bobby, and I told you on the phone when I was going from Greene County to find my way down to Highway 16, Interstate 16 to get to Savannah. You know, it's a bunch of small towns and country roads. I went through Wrightsville. That is the home of Herschel Walker. I'd never been there before.
It's a dot on the map, dude.
It's a dot on the map. Sparta, Georgia. How many people have heard of Sparta, Georgia? That's where Harvey and Horace Grant came out of. A spot on the map. Every small town that you kind of went through had a pro athlete. Whether it's basketball, WNBA and Olympic gold medalist, Herschel Walker. It's just, that's what makes this job so much fun, man. I'm really lucky. I've got to do this for a long time. And then to go last night in Savannah to see Walter Mathis, Buddy Mathis, who goes by. I'm just here to tell you that kid's if that kid doesn't play football as a career one day, then he probably just had a lot of injuries.
Okay, guys, we got some super chats that we're going to get to here. I'm going to start with this one from UT Tyler Guy. Thank you, UT Tyler Guy. Good morning. I flew up to Michigan yesterday for the game. I came solo as it was supposed to be my dad and I, but he passed last year. Our condolences go out to you, UT Tyler Guy. He says, I'll be at the tailgate and taking it in 28 rows up. Hook 'em.
We'll be thinking about you, UT Tyler Guy. Sorry about your father, but he knows you're going to be where you're supposed to be on Saturday and where he would want you to be, man. Good luck, and I hope I see you up there. Come by and please say hello during the tailgate.
And then one other one from him as well. He says, I also got a picture with Lee Corso at the Detroit airport yesterday. So that's cool. That's pretty neat.
Yeah. Hey, the Aaron McMann, the reporter from the M Live for the Wolverines beat guy, was and mentioned this, and we've talked about it before. I mean, how many times has both Game Day, ESPN's Game Day, and Fox Big Noon been in the same place on a weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, what, once or twice?
OU Texas 2 years ago. I remember, or maybe not 2 years ago. I can't remember what year that was, but not many times. No, not many times. Alabama last year.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of themes. All right.
Texas,
we're going to do this
Texas
one here.
is the team.
This one here from Brandon Huey. Buy, sell. Worthy started the culture change at Texas. He says he personally buys.
I think he was a part of it, but Roschon Johnson started it.
I literally was going to. That's.
If we ever have a conversation again about a backup running back, the number 2 running back being the leader of a college football team, I'll be shocked. The Roschon Johnson had I was ESPN Under Armour. We had him in the Under Armour game. I went down to see him. He has truly special qualities in that regard. But yes, you have to have a guy like Roschon and Bijan and Worthy. Those guys have to jump right in if you're going to get there. But Roschon was the dude, man. Oh, but as a recruit, Brandon Huey, yeah, look, I mean, and think about this. I mean, I've gone back to this with Xavier Worthy. You think Michigan was good last year? Imagine with Xavier Worthy on that team.
Woo! They signed him originally.
Before we move on, we got a lot of questions, some more super chats we need to get to, fellas. But first, Bobby, tell us about one of our newest sponsors, somebody we're all excited about, Underdog.
Yeah, I think Xavier Worthy hit the over yesterday. Blake Monroe, I got the text with you jumping up and down. Get in the game. Football season is here. Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy sports on a daily basis. How does it work? It's simple. Just download the Underdog app or go online. It takes almost no time. Playing their pick'em game, I can make my picks and submit an entry in less than 60 seconds, or I can take all the time I want and dig even deeper, making up to 8 picks in a single entry. It is a situation where you can make up to 325 times the money. Underdog adds a ton of excitement to the sports viewing experience, especially for football, which is why I personally love it. And the best part is you can watch your progress update in real time. Today, Underdog is hooking you up for the start of football season. Go to underdogfantasy.com, use promo code ONTexas for a first deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. That's $1,000 in bonus cash plus a free pick. They also have an additional site-wide booster that you'll be able to take advantage of up until NFL kickoff. Again, underdogfantasy.com. Use promo code ONTexas right now for a first deposit offer of up to $1,000 and one free pick. That's Underdog Fantasy, our choice and the choice for daily fantasy. Blake Monroe was smiling last night. I think CJ Vogel might have been too, by the way. I think.
I've been smiling the last few nights. I've been doing very well on Underdog, so no complaints from this guy right here. Okay, some more super chats, guys. Sauce the Destroyer, we appreciate your super chat. We'll jump over to recruiting now. Who are your top recruits in Texas for 2026?
Man, John Turntine, the offensive tackle at North Crowley. I'm a big fan of John Turntine. Toa Katoa, the offensive guard. I'm telling you, Euless Trinity. I think next year is a tremendous offensive line class in Texas. That is going to be a big offensive line class in recruiting because, look, you're going to have a lot of pressure on an A&M in Oklahoma. I know Oklahoma got Fasusi in this class, but there's a lot of pressure on them to win these offensive line battles. And I think Texas is in a good spot for some of these guys early on. Look, you look at Keyshawn Henderson. He's committed to Houston at Legacy of Sports Sciences. I actually talked to the people at Hitchcock. They played him last week. He's tremendous all-around athlete. There's a really good running backs in this, guys. Javian Osborne from Forney. He'll be at the Texas-Michigan game. I think those may be his top two right now. Jalen Lott at Panther Creek, Bobby, a guy we're both a big fan of. Look, I don't care if he's 6 foot 170. Obviously, his father, James Lott, but Jalen Lott is going to be one of the top two-way recruits in the country. But Zion Robinson, the receiver at Mansfield, his father, a former Olympian, and is the track coach at TCU. Zion Robinson is elite talent, wide receiver. It's going to be another deep year at Texas. If you're looking for positions, offensive line, running back, running back's really strong. There's multiple programs that'll get really good running backs in the state of Texas. Obviously, Kevin Ford at Duncanville at Edge is a really talented kid as well. So it's going to be interesting to see. Jermaine Bishop is similar to Jalen Lott at Willis. There's two tremendous two-way players in Texas next year. So you look at it, obviously Jermichael Finley's son, Caden Finley, but it's a quality year in state. But I'll say this: offensive line, running back, wide receiver in the state next year, or very high end.
Good stuff, Jerry. And some more super chats, fellas. This next one here from Osauce as well. Thank you once again. And will Texas have to move mountains to get Joseph Mbachu?
They should. I don't care. Look,
that wasn't the question. Do they have to, Jerry?
They should. I mean, I don't know anywhere to put this than the guy has played 3 high school games, and he's a rotational player. This is his first year playing football. And since colleges saw his rotational play, he's been offered by Texas, Auburn, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, LSU, USC, South Carolina.
Just
Bobby,
your average run-of-the-mill 3-star, baby.
How many times has that happened to a guy that's played about 20 snaps in high school?
I love it.
And him and Walter Mathis, you need to move. Those are guys. Look, Caleb Bell's a lot of upside. Caleb Bell, Kendrell Bell's kid at Milton. I was by there Wednesday. 80-inch wingspan, 10-inch hands, frame to carry 295, 300. There's 2 guys at Newton High in Covington that Texas' senior year evaluating. A kid named Ryshawn Perry, who's committed to UCF, who's better than that. I mean, he's got some get off. He's got some BGO. And there's a kid, Christian Ingram, who's 6'5", 275. I'm just telling you, they may end up with 25 defensive linemen in this state this year that sign with Power 4 programs. That's just an amazing number, guys. I don't know what else to say.
Got to go where they are.
And I say this state, I'm in Georgia. Right now I'm in Savannah.
Yep. I was going to say, when you said Covington, I immediately thought of Louisiana.
Yeah.
But there's a Covington near Atlanta as well.
Our next super chat comes from Peter the Great, and he says last week Texas was vanilla. Only thing vanilla this week is the icy white. Sark rolls out 31 flavors, especially the deep ball and the defensive end and blitz schemes.
Texas wasn't actually vanilla on defense last week. They were vanilla somewhat on offense. I think the big piece is that I think the shoe's on the other foot here too. Michigan was very vanilla last week. So both teams knew that they could win the previous game without divulging too much. And Aaron McMann, who was just on with M Live, kind of spoke to that a little bit. They didn't have to go to their bag of tricks in that game. So we do think Michigan, he talked, what was interesting, one of the things that was interesting, Blake and Jerry, I don't know if y'all caught this from what Aaron McMann said. He said Wink Martindale likes versatile players. So it's a
positionless defense.
That is what we've been talking about with Johnny Nansen for 6 months.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's, maybe mirror images of themselves in some ways, although Michigan certainly expects to have higher end talent on defense right now than Texas. They really do. Now, will they have, look, Jahdae Barron made a play that was highly intelligent last week, right? And athletic. We'll see if Texas has something for them on defense too. I don't think Texas was I do think they were vanilla for the most part on offense. I think that other than running the dime, they were fairly vanilla on defense too. So hopefully Texas has something ready for the Wolverines tomorrow.
Hey, Blake, we've had some D-line questions, so I'm going to hit a couple of them real quick. David Rawls, what 3 DTs in your wish list from Georgia, Florida? Look, I'll say this. I can't even stop at 3 because there's too many good players. I mean, Myron Charles, Kevin Wynn, Joseph Mbakchu, Walter Mathis. Those 4 guys are high-end prospects, right? Caleb Bell, really good player. Those 4 guys, I just don't, I can't stop it at 3. And the reality is you don't want to. You want to have 7, 8, 9 guys that you think are in that same area code because you're going to be lucky to get 2 or 3 of them in recruiting. These are national battles a long way away from Austin, Texas. So there's a lot of guys. I feel like I saw a number of future NFL defensive linemen if they go maximize or get close to maximizing their talent this week. Zane Petty followed up with which D-line recruit in Georgia has the best upside. That's an interesting question too, because Joseph Mbakchu has so much upside because he's so young in the game and he just has a frame that, you can't, there's nothing about that guy when he walks out on the football field you can coach, right? But then you have a kid like a Walter Mathis who it's similar, and I'm not saying he's going to be this, it's similar to Byron Murphy. And that, remember, Byron Murphy, he had a teammate more highly ranked than him. And with a kid like Walter Mathis, he trains with Elijah Griffin, the number 1 player in the country out of Savannah, who will go to Georgia or Miami. And so he's always been the guy that hasn't been as highly ranked and doesn't get as much press. But in his own right is a really hardworking guy, and you don't question whether he's going to maximize his talent. He's going to get. I mean, if y'all are just getting into the show late, Walter Mathis at Savannah, they don't max out during the season with the guys he works out with. He did 415 pounds 5 times. So that's equivalent of about a 465, 70-pound bench press. He squatted 515 5 times. That's equivalent of about a 640 pound squat. This guy isn't messing around. He trains with D'Angelo Brown, who is a tremendous player for Charlie Strong at Louisville. He trains on D-line stuff with D'Angelo Brown. The kid is just he's got that Byron Murphy mentality. So it's always an interesting question: who has the highest upside? And then Mbaktu, if he maximizes his talent, it's hard to argue with the kid that's that talented. But if he leaves the door cracked as far as that goes, then that Byron Murphy, then that Walter Mathis guy is going to roll right through it. That's the fun part about this job and our job.
All right, some more super chats. Jerry, this one from Jeff is right here for you. He says, I have a Jerry man crush.
You're the only one. Thank you, though.
And then Jeff also follows that up with another super chat as well. Turnovers, penalties, and special teams.
Big on turnovers, big on special teams. I think that Quinn Ewers cannot turn this ball over. Texas can't give Michigan short fields no matter what. Cannot do it. And can't have any big gaffes in special teams. Texas is taking a freshman punter in his second game only to Ann Arbor in front of 110,000 people.
115-yard punt backed up in your own end zone changes the game.
Yeah, exactly. So I hear you. I think that you're 100% right. Hey, for game day, by the way, we've got y'all's game day covered. We start with Saturday morning with the Saturday morning conversation. Myself, CJ Vogel, and Rod Babers break down not only the Texas game, but also give you a little look at what's going on in the SEC. Arkansas and Oklahoma State's an interesting one that you guys need to think about, because the Longhorns play Arkansas, and they have a young quarterback that performed pretty well last week. Then we have the Texas tailgate live from the tailgate that we're doing there in Ann Arbor. Please, if you have a chance, stop by and say hello. Watch with us, Jerry. You guys and Aaron Hogan will be on with that. And then post-game live immediately following the game, brought to you by Flight from Yingling. That will be with myself, Rod Babers, and Brian Robeson, who helped us out last week. Cannot help this week because guess what? He's got a U10 football team that he's coaching during the middle of the game. So he's got to do that. But Tony Hills will be joining us. Excited about that. He made a guest appearance on Wednesday, and people really, I thought, liked what he had to say. So I asked him to come back, and he said absolutely. So it'll be fun to have him on post game.
Hey, we got a few minutes left. Everybody in the chat, this is our last chance. I'm about to give you my prediction score. Bobby, I'm putting you on the spot. Blake, what are your prediction scores? Throw your prediction scores out there for Saturday. Let's end this with our prediction scores. Look at Blake. He's contemplating over there. Bobby, what are you thinking?
I got some time to think, though.
I'm going to start.
If you want me to go first, I'll go first. I've thought about this long and hard.
I know you had a long drive.
No, it was even before that. I've been thinking about this game freaking forever now. I mean, come on. This is the one that's kind of.
Michigan doesn't have long drives.
Yeah, well, I wasn't. I'll put it this way. I wasn't circling Colorado State in my brain back 7 or 8 months ago. I've been thinking about Michigan for 7 or 8 months. About a month ago, I came up with the idea that the first team to 20 wins. And I really believe that still. I think that Michigan's offense is hampered somewhat. I think that Michigan's defense is tremendous. Great defense. Not a good defense, a great defense. I think the first team to 20 wins. I've got Texas going and winning 20-17. I think it's going to be a barn burner, going to be a tough one to win out, maybe a last-minute stop by the Longhorns. That sort of game. That's my feel.
I'm 27-19, 27-20 Texas. I've said it, my keys, I'm not moving off of them. First down run defense, pass protection for Texas. Those are the keys. If they protect Quinn, Texas will make plays in the passing game. And I think they'll do enough to score 27 points. The key there, another key for me in the game, don't let it come down to the Michigan field goal kicker with a kick to win the game, because that dude probably ain't missing. So
23-13 13 in favor of Texas. Lots of field goals in this game.
Yeah, I can see that now. I can see that. A lot of field goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at with it. All right, guys, we got a lot of super chats left in very little time, so we got to get through these pretty quickly. We're going to start with this one from Jerry's Jack Links. He says, I love the way Quinn steps up in big games. I think Michigan was holding back some of the pass and will be pass heavy against Texas. They know we'll load the box. 24-17 Texas. Do y'all see that happening?
I agree with you. I love the way Quinn stepped up against Bama in particular. I like the way he played against Tech and Oklahoma State last year. I love the way he played in the second half against Oklahoma. And I thought he played reasonably well against Washington. So Quinn has played well in big games. I do think Michigan was holding something back. I watched a preview, and I'm going to try to say this quickly, of Urban Meyer breaking down Texas versus Michigan. He thinks that Texas needs to double Colston Loveland, the tight end, not any of their outside guys. Let your outside guys take their guys, but need to really try to double Colston Loveland, the tight end. That may be what Michigan is planning to do in the passing game.
And I think that's twofold because, one, obviously he's their top threat, but two, that makes the Michigan quarterback go to a second or third progression, and that's what you want.
Yes.
It's not so much about Loveland.
That was his whole idea.
Yep.
Make the young quarterback go take that one extra step.
Yep. It's not so much about Loveland in this instance. It's about making him get to a second and third progression and make a decision.
Yep. That he hasn't done before.
Right.
All right, our next super chat, fellas, comes, excuse me, from Jet Rodriguez. Jet says, will there be any recruits that Texas is going after at the game for Michigan? Hook 'em.
Javian Osborne, the junior running back at Forney, is scheduled to be up in Ann Arbor. He visited Michigan this summer. I kind of believe Texas, Michigan are the top two right now. I think he was at A&M Notre Dame. I'm not sure how he felt about that. But I think Texas is in a pretty good spot for him, but we'll see because there's a lot of choices at running back for Tashard choice in the 2026 class.
Okay, and then our next super chat, fellas, comes back from Jerry's Jack Links. Jerry's Jack Links once again. That's a mouthful sometimes. Also, do we know the team's internal motto this year? Last year it was FAFO. I think it's the same this year.
Could be. They were touting the word obsessed at one point this year. But that's a good question. Let's try to find that out. Maybe we'll find out more after this weekend. Good question.
And then our next super chat is from Biggins, Minnesota, or Ailman. Tomorrow is the perfect shorts and t-shirt weather. Gorgeous day for football in the Midwest. 34-17 Texas.
Dude, if Texas scores 34, I'm all in. I think we'll have a good post-game chat. That's all I'll say. If Texas scores 34. I still to this day, I think the post-game chat for Alabama has been my favorite post-game live we've ever done, Jerry. It was unbelievable. I hope to have that same thrilling feeling again tomorrow afternoon.
Hey, by the way, Kelly Horns Up has an interesting question. Will Texas run fast, no huddle offense? I don't know about that, but I think Sark's definitely going to – he's definitely going to try to stretch Michigan horizontally quickly in the passing game. I'm not sure exactly tempo. We'll have to see on that. I think a lot of that will be dependent on how Texas offensive line is playing early on against Michigan in this game.
Okay, our next super chat, fellas, is going to be I skipped it just a second ago. Sorry about that. G. Burnett, thank you for the super chat, though. Any interesting details on the Texas first real game experience with the radio headsets?
I did not hear anything that would lead me to believe it was a negative for sure on defense. Anthony Hill was that guy. I think he's going to be that guy again this week, is all I've been told.
I think that's tested this week. I think what we hear this week from Quinn and Sark after this game will be the key.
It's going to be loud.
Yeah, definitely. Burt Reynolds Jr. with the super chat. Well, with the UT defensive game plan so obvious against Michigan, what are the most likely surprises that the Texas staff will need to be prepared for?
I don't know that they'll be surprised, but CJ did some tracking on this. Michigan only had 5 play action passes last week. 5. For a team that is going to be run heavy, to only have 5 play action passes, that's just not going to happen in this game. So Texas has to be ready for that. Other things that they need to be prepared for, exotic blitzes from Michigan. I don't know. I mean, if I knew that, I would probably be a coach. I think that we're going to have to wait and see. Michigan is going to try to out-athlete Texas on the defensive front, and they might be able to do it at times. They did it to Washington a year ago when nobody – remember, this Michigan defense, now I know they had some losses to Jerry's point, okay, but the same interior guys return. They think they have a better linebacker. They still have the corner that they love. This Michigan defense held the same Washington team that moved the ball up and down the field against Texas. They held them to 13 points in the national championship game.
One thing that was interesting, Joel Klatt said something really good on his preview I listened to driving on I-16 yesterday, was Jenkins, the other defensive lineman that's off to the NFL now. Last year, Michigan only asked Mason Graham and Kenneth Grant to play around 30 snaps per game. And while Michigan has depth on the defensive line, are they have to ask those guys to play 50 snaps in a game like this? And how would that affect them? Because they haven't done that before. They weren't called upon to do that last year. So that's something to watch, kind of what Kelly Horns was asking about Sark using some tempo stuff in this game. That will be interesting, kind of game within the game, is how much is Michigan going to rotate up front in this game? Because last year, again, those guys they were only asked to play around on average 30, 32 snaps a game. They're probably going to play more than that tomorrow. And how does that affect them versus last year?
All right, before we get to these last set of super chats, Bobby, I'm going to let you tell folks out there about BKCW one last time.
Yeah, absolutely. BKCW takes your business out of the insurance trap by providing you with actual risk management consulting, not just price quoting. Operating out of its Austin headquarters, owned by UT grad, BKCW uses a 5-step process to identify your business's insurance weak spots. Design a plan, execute it, and monitor your situation throughout the year. BKCW has risk consultants that specialize in many different industries, from construction and transportation to nonprofits, school districts, and the like. So you'll get matched up with someone who knows your risks and can help you and your business escape the insurance trap. Don't just get an order taker as an insurance person for your business. Get an insurance expert like they provide at BKCW. Get started with a free risk assessment at bkcw.com or send an email to info@bkcw.com to get started and get the support you deserve. That's 512-250-5055.
Good stuff. And this next one here.
The team saying this is a great when Clay hit it, because Roger Clemens came and spoke to the team. It's tough all day.
It's tough all day?
I think
so.
I
think he's talking about when they were asking that question, the internal one, not the one that the public actually knows, is what he was talking about on that one. But yes, tough all day is the one that they're going with publicly. We'll see what the players go with. All right, James Hetfield going to Hitchcock game tonight. Are we still pursuing Kelshawn Johnson and the defensive tackle from Hitchcock?
Yeah, actually had an update on TexasFootball.com about that. Spoke about Kelshawn earlier in the week. Pursuing, I think Texas is evaluating Malcolm Simpson, the Nebraska commit, the D-line lineman at Hitchcock. He's played his first 3 years at Galveston Ball. I think that's more evaluation. Kelshawn Johnson, I actually spoke with Kelshawn, spoke with somebody at Hitchcock on the road yesterday. And I spoke with Kelshawn earlier in the week. But, yeah, Chris Jackson is really the point man right now, not so much Sark right now. But Kelshawn told me he'll likely get back for a game this year to Austin. He's been at the game tonight. He's been nursing a little bit of a toe injury. He did come back. I think he returned to kickoff or something for a touchdown. Maybe he had another big play in that game. He may not quite be 100% yet. He may be a couple weeks away from that. Malcolm Simpson, 6'2", 6'1.5", 6'2", about 265. Really good, really upside talented player. I think he's kind of playing his way into a little better shape as well. But Texas is evaluating Malcolm Simpson, and Texas is definitely still very interested in Kelshawn Johnson.
Then Isaiah Stewart, thank you for the super chat, Isaiah. He says, shame. In Connecticut, they're getting rid of high school captains in sports. That's interesting. Can you speak to the impact leadership has on recruits?
One, that's ridiculously dumb.
Yes.
But two, look, I mean, Bobby, you got some thought. I mean, anything I say here I'm going to sound like an a-hole. So go ahead. It's ridiculous.
Why are they getting rid of high school? I can't even. I guess because the coaches are supposed to be the leaders. What does leadership impact have on recruits? Here's what I can tell you. Most teams have leadership, and most teams have good leadership. It will have a negative impact if you don't have leadership, though. Please don't take this wrong for any players that were captains before this, but there were times when Texas didn't necessarily have the best leadership in the locker room. Okay. They have really good leadership right now. They've had it since Roschon Johnson. And I'm not saying Sam Ehlinger wasn't one of them. He was good too, but it's more pervasive now. Sark talked about it in the offseason. When he first came here, there were 1 or 2 leaders. Then there were 3 or 4. Then there were 5 to 8. And then now this year, he feels like there's 15 to 20.
Yeah.
That's what you're aiming for. I can tell you that if you don't have leadership, it negatively affects recruiting. Leadership is expected, though. And so it's not a big difference maker. It's only a difference maker if you ain't got it.
Yeah, and so one thing I would say that it makes me laugh because you can't put a captain or call somebody captain. The kid's still going to be a leader in the locker room.
Yeah.
What's truly your point?
That's ridiculous.
I'll be nice. All right, next question.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep my mouth shut. Okay, here we go. Z from the T 2820 giveaway for an On Texas football hat.
We might do that. We might just do that. Going up. We'll start. I've got some hats in, as y'all can tell. These were the first round of them. So I had to do that with folks that are on the staff. But we're getting ready to have some mugs and some hats as well. You guys stay tuned for that. We're going to definitely do some giveaways as well as try to sell these for folks that want them as well.
All right, guys, we're going to go through these because a lot of these are predictions. Double D, thank you for the super chat. Says Texas by 14 and Michigan's head coach is going to cry again on national television.
For a different reason.
If he loses this game, he may never get a contract. All right, keep going.
Yeah. And then Garrett with super chat 34-24 to break another home win streak. Hook 'em. That'd be a good start to the season, just like last year as well. And then Jerry, I'm pretty sure this one is up your alley. Justin with super chat says Texas City 14, Ball High 13.
Thank you for the super chat. That means Jonah Williams only scores 1 touchdown. He had 5 last week.
Hey, maybe
Justin's a Texas City grad, and I think his super chat heart's gonna be broken tonight. Galveston Ball's pretty good this year.
Maybe,
but I like that he's willing to go say it.
Hey, is there a big game, couple of big high school games this weekend? Just other than
Saturday, if you're in the Dallas area, Saturday night at 6 at DeSoto ISD Stadium, Dallas Skyline and Fort Bend Marshall are playing. So 2 Texas commitments. That's Elijah Barnes and Caleb Chester. Maybe not the big game from a ranking standpoint, but if you're in DFW and you want to celebrate Texas win with more football, you can go watch a couple of Texas commits in person.
Okay, and then our last one for today from Jay Lee. Michigan is going to keep everything underneath, stop the run, and force Quinn Ewers and our new wide receivers to prove they can beat them down the field. Do we know that we can do that?
No. And this is what I talked about. Last year, Xavier Worthy and Adonai Mitchell came up with the two biggest catches, maybe Jatavian Sanders on an underneath route too, right? Those were the three big pass plays in that game. All three of them are off to the NFL. Now, the replacements this past week looked good for Texas, but they were doing that against Colorado State. Can they do it against Michigan? It's not just about the offensive line and defensive line in this game, although I think that will be a huge component. It's also whether or not these playmakers for Texas, the Jaden Blues, the Trey Wisners, the Amari Nyblack, Gunnar Helm, all those receivers can also step up. That's a big piece of this game.
By the way, Nyblack and Bolden were not used in the short, quick screen game, passing game last week. Let's see if that happens 2 weeks in a row. I'm betting against it.
I bet you're right. All right. Well, it is obviously a big weekend, Texas fans. There's no better place if you're not going to the game than on Texas football. Bobby, I know you got around the clock coverage beginning early. I'm going to put the graphic up one last time, let you run through it, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, absolutely. On Saturday morning around 7 o'clock, we have the Saturday Convo. It'll be me, CJ, Rod, Texas Tailgate. Jerry's going to be joining alongside myself and CJ Vogel. CJ's going to be doing Man on the Street. CJ's already he thinks he's going to go visit and look at the national championship trophy, which apparently will be on display, as well as talking to some Texas fans. Watch with us, Jerry, Bob Shipley, Rod Babers, along with Aaron Hogan hosting. Then we got the post game live, brought to you by our friends over at Flight from Yingling. It is a full day. We also have, I'm going to be in Ann Arbor in about 4 hours or 3 hours. We will have a live show this afternoon from Ann Arbor as well. CJ's going to join us. We're both going to be up there. It is a wall-to-wall football. Hey, by the way, if you're interested in fantasy sports, we just started a new show specifically for fantasy sports fans called Higher or Lower. It's on Friday afternoon with a young person named Matt Butler, who's considered a kind of a freak in that category. He's really, really good at it. Rod Babers is co-hosting with Matt Butler. It's called Higher or Lower, and it starts this afternoon after the live stream from Ann Arbor.
Okay, well, that is going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football, presented by BKCW. We want to thank them, along with Manscaped, HelloFresh, and, of course, Underdog Fantasy, all for sponsoring today's show. Thank you for the great questions, the super chats. Be sure to head on over to ontexasfootball.com. If you're not a member yet, use promo code OTFOG. You can get a full year for less than $40. A great deal, so be sure to check that out. And then if you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button, ring the bell so you're notified anytime we post content, go live, whatever it may be. Between those two things, we will have you covered with Texas coverage that you can't find anywhere else. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you on Monday morning.
Let's go, Longhorns.
2-0.